Hello, everybody. This is Linda Martin with the Safety Struggle, and it is Sunday, November 29th. And I'm coming to you on the holiday weekend to see if we can connect and talk a little bit more about some questions you had yesterday on the live stream. And as you can see, I'm here by myself. And so, what I will do is answer some of the questions that I got on the live stream yesterday, maybe talk a little bit more about safety programs. And, I got other few other things queued up. So, if you're out there and you're listening, can you type into the chat and let me know you're here and I'm not all by myself? That would be terrific. So, the first thing I wanted to say is I think everybody that watched yesterday, if you watched for the entire episode, I have a lot of opinions. And so I just wanted to make sure that everybody knows that my opinions are my own. They're not those of any of my employers. They're not those of my friends or people who influence me. They're exactly what I just said. They're opinions of my own. And they're built on a lifetime of working in the field of safety, working with others, and they're based on my experience and my knowledge. So if you get upset or offended, or you think I'm speaking for somebody else, I apologize, but I'm not. I'm speaking solely from the heart of Linda Martin and the Lorax. So, hello, everybody. And once I got that out of the way and everybody knows that I'm speaking for myself, one of the questions that I got through a message was, why do I always say congratulations to those people that are getting certifications through a certain body, a certification body? And I want you to know that if you creep me on LinkedIn, which hopefully you guys are doing a great job creeping me on LinkedIn, you'll know, and hopefully some of you guys that out there can attest to it, that I congratulate a lot of people for a lot of things. I don't just congratulate them from that one agency. I I actually congratulate people getting certifications from other bodies. I actually congratulate people for getting certificates. I congratulate them for getting new jobs. I congratulate everybody that's moving forward in their career. And, you know, that's all I can tell you is that I have no affiliation with anybody anymore. And if you're moving forward and you want to learn and you want to be in this career, I am absolutely 100% behind you. And so, when you look at this, I got to learn to point to things. But if you look at this thing behind me that says, none of us is strong as all of us, I mean exactly that. So I want to include everybody in my messages, and I want to include everybody in what I do and how I do it as far as the safety struggle goes. So um, if you think I'm only congratulating one type of certification or one type of accomplishment, go and creep me. Take a look at my activity on LinkedIn, and you'll see that I basically love everybody, anybody that's moving forward. So that's one thing that I wanted to get out of the way. The other thing is, I mentioned yesterday at the end of the live stream with Nate. Hi, Nate. Nate's here today. Good to see you. I mentioned that I'm going to do my favorite things in safety. I don't know how many I'll do, but it just depends on what you guys send in to me for suggestions. Because I certainly have safety products and safety equipment that I like to use when I was in the field. And I say when I was in the field because I'm not anymore. But I will mention them, and that's not a paid thing. So I'm looking for your suggestions. Tell me what you like so that we can tell other people what's good out there for fall protection, for safety consultants, for safety staffing, where to find jobs, etc. If you send that stuff to me, I will mention it here on the show. And if you see, and I'm going to try this, if you see this little thing over here, Doc Martin's favorite things, that's coming up December 1st. So I did get one yesterday, and I'm going to mention it because I thought it was a really good one. Somebody wrote in and they said one of their favorite things is to get congratulated and to actually receive a special note telling them that they've done something good and that they appreciate somebody. So if you have somebody in your life or in your workplace, yes, that is safety leadership. Totally agree, and I don't wanna botch your name, so I won't say it, Tamir from Turkey? And, anyway, so, that is safety leadership, so if you have somebody that you appreciate doing a job for you in safety or in the field, please tell them that you appreciate them, leave them a sticky note, send them a card, bring them an apple for the teacher, but do that because it really does make somebody's day. So, if you are looking for where to send those suggestions, let me just put this up here. You can send your suggestions for favorite things to the Lorax at safetystruggle.com. The Lorax at safetystruggle.com. I'll leave that up there for a second. And if you'll send that to me, I would really appreciate it so that we can talk about the things that you guys like to talk about. Job postings too. So well, let's just lead right into that. And I'm going to say Sirsan or Sirkan. Job postings are posted a lot on LinkedIn. I could probably do a show at some point about job postings that people send in and they're really looking for qualified people. I think that's totally a doable thing. I think there are many places to look for careers in EHS. LinkedIn is one of them. Try ehscareers.com. I know some of the recruiters post on their websites, but there are also a lot of people doing a lot of good work sending jobs to other people and helping them find work because there are a lot of people out of work today. And holy cow, here he comes, Dr. John Mulroy. Oh, my safe. You gotta move over because my safety thing.
Let me
Welcome
get
to the
out of
show, Dr. John Mulroy. He's making a
Linda's
special
way here.
he's making a special appearance because here's the thing, if you creep me on LinkedIn, know that I'm creeping you back. So, I saw him on LinkedIn and I told him it's the, epitome of all evil to be creeping people on LinkedIn on a Sunday, and so he got roped in to come in and joining me to answer questions. So, there's already a question in the chat, John. Do you think leadership engagement is important for safety? And how do we do that?
I argued in my dissertation that it was paramount, and what I found was it's all important, right? So management leadership is important, employee participation is important, training and education is important, administration supervision skills, not how do I behave as a supervisor in order to promote and move this OHSMS forward. That's all important. Hazard identification, prevention, detection. That's all important. So yes, it is critical, I think, to success to get leadership engaged. So how do you do that? That's really culture specific. I believe an organization which demonstrates humility is an organization that can learn. And if you have a humble learning organization, then you're going to have the type of leaders that you need in order to ensure that the resources are there, the skill sets are there, the third-party consultants that you might hire for arc flash or industrial hygiene, the specialists come in, they're available to you. So
So John, did you see Nate Brayman put up unless your leaders suck?
yeah, I do see that. I do see Nathan's comment. That's right. So I work for an organization. Our company I work for, the plant that I work for was operated by an organization that had six coal-fired power plants that they operated in another state, and they were averaging almost one fatality per year. And when they had a change of leadership in DuPont Safety Services, they hired them. They came in and they changed the leadership at the top for that operating company, and they never had another fatality again. So I do think it is super heavily dependent on the type of leaders that are there.
I like how you keep moving over away from my little thing there. Um, so I agree here. Dan says if they suck, leave. So you do have two options, right?
No,
For
Dan's comments absolutely is right. I mean, look, I worked at a plant where guys were there in leadership positions that had been there for their entire careers. It's the only thing they knew, and they couldn't understand that I had come from Westinghouse. I left this huge conglomerate company to come to this power plant. Well, I was driving 54 miles each way versus 9, 40% pay increase. I went for all the right reasons. But I also left the other organization because the leadership wasn't as progressive as the leadership team that I joined. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So, Nate made another comment, and I love this comment because this is something I was going to talk about today in regards to some of the salary surveys that have been coming out lately. And I'm going to make a couple cheeky comments, and you guys are either going to love this or you're going to hate it. Nathan says, any thoughts on the gig economy as it relates to safety gigs versus careers? And Nate, I think there are a lot of people out there that are gigging it right now. And there are a lot of people out there that are going from job to job. You and I talked about this yesterday that they're doing like an 8-month job and then they've got to, wait for something else to come along and then they do another 6 months job. And so with regards to that, I see a lot more of that happening. Here's my take on this, right? Salary surveys come out and they poll people who have jobs pretty much. Okay. And so if you look at the amount of people on LinkedIn who have the open to work symbol around their profile picture, or they're saying that they don't have work, I'm wondering if these salary surveys take into account or ask the question about gig workers and gig economy and project workers. And, what about all the people that are out of work? Are they like writing into these salary surveys and saying, "Oh, I have my CSP, but I'm making $0?" And
right.
I mean, I know that's really cheeky, but I think about that, right? I mean, it's great to say that you can make $150,000 as a CSP or whatever you have, but if you don't have a job, that's zero. So, I don't know. What say you, Nate, on that? Did I answer your question? And John, do you have any comments on the gig economy stuff? Are you seeing a lot of your students go into that
No,
gig
no,
economy?
no. Actually, their IEP is heavily recruited, year in, year out. Those students are in higher demand. So don't typically see them enter the gig economy. It's more of my peer group as we age and gray in this profession that end up evolving out of your 9 to 5, 40-hour week type positions and moving into a more of a gig format.
Yeah. The other thing, I mean, I guess you're forced into it a lot of times by like the pandemic has forced a lot of people into it. As companies downsize, the safety people are the first to go because as everyone knows, we are dispensable. What do you need that safety guy for? We can get the receptionist to go around and tell people to put their hard hats on. And so I've seen a lot of people downsized out of jobs who are now just hand to mouth. Um, so yeah, Nate, I totally agree with you. I don't think that surveys take the gigs into account. I think it is a newer phenomenon. There are companies out there that are doing that with people. They're getting them to do gig work. But some of the larger companies are also doing 1099 for people, and um, it's not just people without a degree. It's not just people with, certain lower certifications. It's the CSPs too. I mean, they're hand to mouth looking for gigs. And so, when you look at these salary surveys, I just this again, this is just my opinion. You have to take things with a grain of salt because I really highly doubt that they're asking about the gig economy or they're asking about the people that are doing these 1099 jobs consistently. There are a lot of people out there that are doing that, and they're not just people without degrees and without certifications. So, again, if you're a CSP and you're making $0, then your average salary for CSPs kind of goes down if that person responds. So, John, there was another question up here. I put it on the board here. What type of leadership should we be implementing into safety? That's $1 million question, right? I mean,
Sure.
was that something that your dissertation covered too? The type of
Mhm.
safety leadership, or do you guys want just an outright opinion? because I got one.
Yeah. Well, I'd like to hear your opinion on this. What do you think?
So I'm big into well, first of all, I don't like uh buzzwords. I crazy hate buzzwords, but I'm going to say servant leader, and I'm going to say somebody who actually can pull out those positive qualities in people and then trust them to do their job and then to be more of a mentor. Um, there has to be an element of no ego. There has to be less narcissism, I think, on the part of leaders in safety, and they have to be able to know that somebody surpassing you in either strength of intelligence or strength in practice is a good thing, right? Because everybody shines when your people shine. So, as much as I hate buzzwords, the servant leader 1,000 times over.
I, I think the visible leader, the we've heard that phrase, "be here now," right? So I'll give you a good case example. In the leadership change of that operating company for the power plant, the new VP of operations, when he would travel from out of state into Pennsylvania to visit this plant, he would arrive through the gate, and I had met him before as a plant manager at a plant out at his out of state, and he had traveled to Pennsylvania to learn how our plant was doing safety so well, and what was the same and what was different, right? So I think of a leader who can de- deconstruct those issues and determine what's the same and what's different. And I knew he demonstrated that humility that's necessary for leaders. And so he had come, their plants were having serious injuries and fatalities, a high degree of SIF risk potential there. Their fatality rate across those plants was significantly higher. And so he traveled to Pennsylvania. Our plant had gone 7 years without a lost time case. Meanwhile, they're having one fatality per year across those plants, contractor and in-house. So when he was promoted to VP of operations, he would come through the gate. He would come into the admin building. He'd go to the plant manager, my boss, drop off his briefcase, drop his coat off, and say, "Is there anything pressing immediately that I need to know about?" Once he asked that question, he turned and he came to my office. I was the first office he would go to. So the vice president of operations for all these plants across the United States is looking for the safety manager on site. And he would come in and he would sit in my office and he would just have a conversation about what's going well, what are you struggling with, what's the same, what's different between the out of state plants versus this plant where I am today. And we would spend about 2 to 3 hours then walking through that plant, stopping in the control rooms, going to the maintenance shop, going over to the electrical shop, the water department, and seeing the workers. And he would have conversations about safety. They could ask him whatever they want. Hey, is natural gas going to knock this plant out of business, and talk about the operational issues? But essentially, it was a conversation about safety. He wanted to know, do they have the resources they need in order to do the work that they're expected to do safely? So he was visible. He would listen. He was present. Now, it wasn't. This was not just something he was checking off. Every time I go to a plant, I got to do a walk around with the safety guy. It wasn't that. He was genuinely concerned about the welfare of these workers. So he was visible, he was present in the moment, and I could see the effect of that long lasting, because a week or two later, I could still overhear conversations about how this VP of operations come into the electrical shop and sat down here at my work table and talked about confined space entry and talked about fall protection, talked about PPE and the things that I need to do my job right. That was huge.
Yeah. That's also, I mean, that's also forward looking, right? That's visionary. That's why I left Will's comment up there is servant leadership versus visionary. And a visionary leader is always looking for places to improve, always looking for places to connect with people. And you also have to be looking for, what's the next best thing? Am I protecting the people the best that I can? And that goes to my favorite things. What's new in safety that people need to know about. And if Nate's still here, I'm going to show a book, right, about visionary principles. Um, I don't know, Nate, if you've seen this, The Adventures of Harold and the Purple Crayon. Look at that. I'm getting better at this. Um, This is about a boy who's got a purple crayon and he wakes up in the morning and he draws his own future. It has a lot to do with um, drawing and seeing what's ahead of you and then creating it if it doesn't exist. And so, um, I don't know how many people were watching Nate and I yesterday, but we had a really good conversation about children's books and how they apply to adult leadership and all kinds of other principles. So Nate says, what a great leader. He was getting out and laying down the pipelines of communication. That's why I hammer on communication. You can't fix problems you don't know about.
That's right.
Amen.
That's right.
Amen, Nate. Robert, let me go up here. Robert, having a personable approach to safety is vital. People will open their minds and ears when they see you care about them beyond just the workplace. Absolutely. If you hear about a lot of the supervisors that are successful in the field, superintendents, foremen, safety supervisors, coordinators, the people who are going out there and they know about people's families, what's going on in their lives, they can tell when things change. We talked a little bit about mental health yesterday as well. People who notice are always more successful at getting their message across when it comes to safety, operations, task management, all of those things. Um, Again, just my opinion, because I got lots of them. So let me scroll down in the comments in here. Oh, Nate hasn't seen the purple crayon book. You got to get that one, Nate. Sure. Oh, one of my dissertation students. Hello, Sharif. Is there any information, book, or website that is current about the pandemic and safety in the workplaces? I'm gonna throw this over to Dr. Mulroy, and because Sharif, I don't know the answer to that question. CDC, yes, of course. If people are here from other countries and they have websites that they can throw up there about the pandemic, that Sharif is doing some of his research on the pandemic and fatigue of workers as they have to work longer hours and the stress and etc. So if you have a book or anything like that that you know about, John, the only reason I'm asking Dr. Mulroy is because Dr. Mulroy works directly with small businesses as they wind their way through regulations. And I'm wondering, John, has this come up in consultation at all, pandemic?
Yes, yeah, it has. And I was just going to see, I have an option to share a screen here with you.
Yeah, go ahead. Knock yourself out if you can figure it out.
Yeah, give me a second here.
Do you want me to talk while you're doing that? So, Sharif, thank you for joining us today. Many of you know that I'm working at Capital Tech and I'm doing dissertation chairing there. Sharif is one of my students. He's in the military. Thank you, Sharif, for all that you do, and everybody on that's been in the military. And I wanted to say that we've got people from all over the world, and they're doing great research. And we actually just got 2 new students, one from Shanghai, China, and Singapore. And if you look at any of these, here I'm going to try to show things again. Any of these great research journals, right? Not People Magazine that you get from your local membership, but these local journals. In the US, a lot of the good research is coming out of China, Singapore, Australia, Europe. So I am super excited to have some of these new students on board. So, John, have you figured out how to share?
I thought I was sharing. Apparently,
there you go.
Okay. So, to Sharif's question, then, are there resources that are available? So here, Indiana University, Pennsylvania houses for 39 years the Pennsylvania OSHA Consultation Office. We're the sole agency in Pennsylvania for high hazard small employers providing no cost OSHA consultation assistance. And what we did is we put together a collection of resources. Let me click this link. This should bring it up. So this is just in Pennsylvania. The other state consultation offices across the United States have similar pages. The individual state, Pennsylvania, New Hampshire, Maryland, Department of Health have just volumes of resources. Every day that goes by, we learn more and more about this COVID virus that's floating around. So here, just in Pennsylvania, just to share this website, we put Pennsylvania specific plans so small employers in Pennsylvania can understand what the requirements are, the expectations are from the Department of Health here in Pennsylvania, orders from the governor for regarding travel restrictions and stay-at-home orders. Um, we put an operation startup checklist, things that companies can do to ensure that had they been shuttered over the summer months and spring months because of COVID and shut down, and they begin to restart, there's a lot of hazards associated with that, right? So making sure that your eye wash stations are flush, make sure there's no water laying in potable water lines, making sure that equipment that have been shut down gets restarted. We may not have procedures in place to identify the risk associated with a long period shutdown. We may shut the facility down for a weekend. We may shut it down for a week over 4th of July to do some maintenance work on it, but weeks on end. So we did some checklists and some hazard awareness around those particular hazards. AIHA has a lot of resources about returning to work safely. That is industry specific, retail, gyms, restaurants. So that is a good resource. The CPWR is another tremendous resource on COVID. In the Philadelphia area, consortium of construction organizations have put together a lot of resources on safety officer qualifications and minimum competencies that are required for the position like that. So there are just a number of different resources that are available that are out there if you're able to find a location that sort of houses them under one roof, which we tried to do here at IUP.
You got that? All right. Thanks, John.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody else have any other questions? You got two doctors on the line, one better than the other, and let's see if I can point in the right direction. That guy over there.
Okay.
Um,
that lady right there.
One of the things that came up yesterday, John, and I'll mention this for people listening, is somebody said that I teach for several universities, and which one is the best? so I do want to address that because that's a very interesting question. And my response was this: there are many good instructors, professors. There are many good programs. Just because I teach in a program or you teach in a program, it doesn't make it better or worse than any other. That there are some programs that focus on risk. There are some that focus on construction,
fire engineering, and
fire engineering, right? So I mean, you can get what have you, right? And then I got into the opinion phase of my my program. And I gave a shout out to, I'm not really sure what ABET serves anymore, just because employers don't know what it is and they don't ask for it. And so it becomes an academic checkbox exercise. And so I know that you teach at, or at least adjunct now at ABET, an ABET accredited program. And, what say you? Is there a big difference in ABET programs versus non-ABET programs?
I believe there are differences. It
Okay.
may not matter to an organization that has 600 workers across 3 plants in the United States. That may not mean much to the hiring manager that is there. Uh, However, I think as far as preparation and making sure that a 4-year degree student is able to deal with the financial aspects, the environmental aspects, be able to have a fundamental understanding of how toxins enter the body and how illness is created. Those are the types of courses that get developed in an ABET accredited program. So I think there is an advantage. Now, is it Murray State? Is it IUP? Is it Keene? Is it Capital Tech? Is it? Um, I think for especially today, because students are able to do much of this work remotely now. The hands-on aspect of what we would know, having gray hair, like getting your hands on pumps and dosimeters in the lab and doing an industrial hygiene lab and going out and trying and physically getting your hands on that equipment. All that aside. You can really follow your passion. So wherever your Purple Crown takes you,
Purple
right?
crayon. Purple crayon.
If you want to be a fire
Again,
engineer, fire
the
prevention,
the purple crayon.
right? So if that's the vision that you create for yourself going forward, I really like this idea of fire prevention. Maybe there's something that happened in your life, or that makes life safety 101 really passionate about that. Well, and the Oklahoma State, that's the type of program you should gravitate towards.
Yeah,
So I think
totally.
it's a coat of many colors, right? Our
So
profession, and each of those programs contribute a straight to that coat.
So I got two things here. I should have jumped to Nate's comment yet, but Ramiz says, is CSP really take you to the peak of safety? Okay. And then Nate responded with, one of my criticisms of the CSP is the same as any form of education. If you don't practice it daily, you will lose it. It makes more sense to specialize in one area rather than have a generalized credential. You can study and remember general for a short time, but if you don't practice it daily, weekly, you won't retain it. So, let's talk a little bit about credentials, right? I have a lot of them. John has a couple of them. And I think we're both probably in agreement that you can't just get a credential and then stop there, because that's a test of where you stand at a point in time, and not of your professional development over your career, right? And so most credentials come with a element of professional development. Now, what professional development you do will also determine whether you're a good practitioner 10, 15, 20 years down the road, because some people just phone it in and, take quizzes or do little things to get little point one, point one, point one, and they're not doing substantial professional development in currently relevant topics or up and coming topics to make themselves um, a broad range practitioner. And I'm gonna let John weigh in on that if you want to, John. You got no,
Specifically,
yeah.
specifically how?
So so you know
What are
what?
you trying to tease out here?
I'm not really trying to. Yeah, I know, right? I'm like leading the witness. So I'm gonna ask. I'm gonna answer Ramiz from my perspective. Does it take you to the peak of safety? Some will say yes. Um, Do I personally believe just having a credential makes you the best of the best? I don't. I think what makes you the best of the best in safety is a mix of things, and it's different for everybody. Okay. So I have colleagues in the construction industry that have practiced 30 or 40 years, and they are excellent safety professionals, and they have no degree and they have no credentials, and they're making just as much money, if not more, than a CSP. So, in that example, the mix of what they have is the peak, right? In other areas of safety and in certain organizations, you must have a CSP to proceed to the upper echelons of leadership. So, I guess it depends on where you want to go, right? Um, my mix is different than John's mix, different than Nate's mix, and also different than yours, Ramiz. So, um, does it take you to the peak of safety? I guess it depends on where you want to go and in what company you want to work, and what your personal goals are over a lifetime or a career. So maybe I'm not trying to tease anything out of you, John, at all. But I am going to show another kid's book. And Nate, are you ready for this? The Lemming Condition. Okay. And this is something one little piece of trivia about me is that I used to be a camp counselor at several different camps. Probably was a camp counselor for 8 or 9 years. So I have all these kids' books that have taught me lessons in life. And the Lemming Condition is about a bunch of lemmings that every year the lemmings come out of their hole and everybody follows the leader and they jump off a cliff. But there's one lemming, and he actually starts to question why everybody's jumping off the cliff, because it seems to him that that's not his path in life. And so he questions and questions and questions. And when the day comes for everybody to jump off the cliff, he goes off on his own journey. So, what why do I even mention that shit? I guess I guess is the question, right? So, my takeaway is don't be a lemming, right? Follow your own path. Get the certifications that ring true to you. If you want to be X, Y, and Z, study the people that are doing X, Y, and Z and find out what made them successful. If it's their CSP, if it's their CIH, if it's their CHST, if it's their NEBOSH, their COSM, their CSD, whatever it is, alphabet soup that got you or got that person that you're eyeing their job or their type of career path, study them. Ask them questions. How did they get where they go, and what do they suggest for somebody younger coming up behind them? I mean, that's what I would say. Um, so not trying to tease anything out of you. Do you have anything to add to that, Dr. John?
I do actually. So I think professional credentials can open doors that otherwise can't be opened, and it provides opportunities to move laterally or upward into a better working condition, better working situation. So, to the earlier conversation, if you know, I see top management as, and whether I would join an organization like marriage, right? You want to make sure that that these two parties work together, that there's synergy here, and if there's not, they call those positions widowmaker jobs for a reason. You pull your hair out and you spin your wheels and you get nowhere. So having a CIH or a CSP, or pick a credential, ASP, GSP behind your name, it can open doors that otherwise would not be open to you for your career path, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean,
Uh,
I think if there was one thing, John, that it's done for me, is that it's allowed me to do consulting on the side because it gives me some legitimacy.
That's right. It establishes your credibility in the profession. So, secondly, I've also been deposed in cases where having that certification lends to witness credibility. So, here we are at a plant that workers have alleged occupational hearing loss, and they're alleging that it happened at your facility. And despite the 30 years of dosimetry work that this plant has done in the past to demonstrate otherwise, all it takes is for a local worker comp judge to say, "Well, I find you not credible," and throw you out, and so goes all the evidence that you bring into the case. So I think credentials bring in a degree of competency and in your profession. So there's that as well. It also demonstrates that to Nathan, to be able to pass the CIH exam, to be able to pass a CSP type of exam or an ASPA type exam, you have to be somewhat of a generalist and have mastery of all aspects of our profession. So it forces you to expand and ensure that your continuing education path is going through, and you're picking up these additional skill sets that you need. So.
Mhm, mhm. And Ramiz makes a good point. One of my professors told me this: degrees and credentials are the keys to hidden treasures. They also play a role of the map to those treasures,
Interesting.
right? And, they do certainly open a lot of doors, especially to leadership positions, and, I'm not trying to discount them at all, but I also wanna make sure that people know that whatever your path is, that's okay, and that there are people like Dr. John and I that are always here to kinda help or guide or answer questions or, um, be your professor in certain classes, probably at every single university that you could go to at this point, because we're starting to cover, a lot of different ground. But to just jump back to the question, what university is best? I don't know. I
Right.
mean, I'd like to think my courses are good, but there are good professors and there are bad professors in any single discipline. And so you may get a great program and you may get a couple of shit professors. But does that make the program bad? No. It doesn't make the program bad. Neither does um, you know, having a couple really good professors and a shit program. Um, I would think that you probably would want the former, the where you had a couple ship professors in a very good program. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't know. I think seek out people who've been to those schools and ask them questions and determine for yourself what your path may be.
Let's take Nate's question here.
Sure. Dr. Mulroy, agree that credentials have their place, but we have to be careful not to put too much importance on titles and credentials. The appeal to authority fallacy can harm progress.
Okay, so let's go back to an article that appeared in Professional Safety a few years back by Dr. Lon Ferguson, who was the chair of IEP Safety Sciences Department, and Dr. Ramsey was a co-author on that as well. And Dr. Ferguson argued that if I needed to have surgery and I'm at the hospital and I'm ready to go into the operating room, and there's been a janitor outside that operating room for the last 20 years watching this procedure done time and time and again. Because he's observed that, does that make him qualified to go into the operating room and perform that, that surgery, to perform that task? And the answer is obviously no, right? So we expect that our medical doctors have training and education, board certifications before they pick up that scalpel or that laser, and they cut, burn, or poison us, right, with their Western medicine techniques. Same thing is true with safety. Why should somebody who's been watching how a trained safety professional has been evaluating a permanent required confined space to ensure that they understand fundamentally, they have a fundamental understanding of the difference between isolation and control, right? And that's more than just two words, and they're not synonymous in any way, that appear in the OSHA standard, that they fundamentally understand the difference between isolation and control of a hazardous atmosphere, a flowable material, that they understand that there could be cross interference in the gases that they're monitoring. They understand that the role and the need of functional tests versus monthly calibration tests. They understand competent person inspections of the equipment that we're using. Somebody who's been watching that going on from a distance may not have the same skill set. So if my kid was going into surgery, I certainly wouldn't want the janitor outside the operating room performing that surgery. If my kid's going in that confined space, I certainly wouldn't want somebody pointing around the room like, "Hey, you're going to be the safety guy today. You go evaluate that permanent required confined space." I just don't think there. I think that is the actual fallacy here.
Yeah, I mean, I kinda get that, but I would add that there's a lot of ways to get to that level of competence,
Of course.
and, you and I both know a lot of CSPs, and, if CSPs were doctors, there are probably 75% of them that I wouldn't let operate on me
Mhm.
in a million years.
Oh, no question.
And
That's not the only go no go criteria for sure, 100%. It's just an aspect of it. Have you demonstrated the knowledge and the ability to apply that knowledge? That's really what's key here.
yeah,
And part of that comes with experience. We could argue to the other side of this. Well, does a student that comes out that graduates in May of 2020 gets hired in June of 2020 able to perform at that level? And the answer is no. I wouldn't want that GSP student evaluating that confined space either, right? Because
mhm.
they don't understand double block and bleed. They don't understand blanks and blinds and what's going on inside of that space. So there's an aspect of experience that goes into this to ensure that you're
Yeah,
well
I was
rounded.
gonna say there could be somebody with 30 years of experience in construction doing just that, brilliant, but they don't have a CSP. So, again, it comes back to the mix of, what's right, what's wrong, and I guess the only thing that we have now is credentials to separate people, from other people. I
But
guess I guess where yeah, I mean, like when we're saying, okay, CSPs are better. Period.
mhm.
Everybody who has a CSP should be management. Everybody who has, you know, uh, I would rather not see that. I mean, I guess I would like to see some other sort of um, litmus. But I guess we do the best with what we
But
have.
I've also worked, hey, my 20 plus years of experience working with corporate EHS people who were not either didn't have a 4-year degree or lacked board certification or both. in comparison to those who have, the Jeff Shockeys of the world running now COA's safety program under Paul O'Neill, for example, night and day,
Yeah.
and the OSHA 300 log, it proves, it
Hmm.
validates that difference. There's a demonstrable difference there. So,
So Nate has one more questions, then we're going to jump back up to this Western medicine has good surgeons with poor MDs. MDs study for years, and most just push pills and are crappy listeners. I
which
don't
is
know if
which was my comment about cut, burn, and poison, Western medicine. So Nate and I agree 100% there.
Oh, Nate, you're going to get yourself an invite to come back on my program. Keep it up. So I like this question. In your opinion, which is the best industry for women to work in and grow as safety professionals? Any. Um, so I think, and I don't know if John's going to agree with me on this or not. I think it just really depends on where you can find your mentors, and if you have an interest in something, again, I'm a big uh proponent of finding people who can help you get where you need to go. And just because somebody says they're gonna mentor you, that doesn't mean they're a good mentor, right? And so I know I'm kind of taking the long way about this. Is I think, and again, maybe this is because I'm a woman. I think women can do anything that men can do, as well, better, sometimes worse. It just really depends on the person. And find there are a lot of good women in safety out there that are willing to help you grow, myself being one of them. So what's your interest, Sneha? What I If your interest is oil and gas, find somebody who can hook you up with somebody in oil and gas who would be a tremendous mentor. And to that end, I would say that I have a fantastic, and I shouldn't offer her, but I would say that I have a fantastic dissertation student in oil and gas, who may be able to give some good advice. So if that's your thing, um, if environmental is kind of my background. So, maybe you find somebody that wants to do that. But, you know, I think you can succeed with the right mentorship and the right attitude in anything you want to do. Period. And that's
Mhm.
that's my pep talk. Um, well, practicality versus certification. Does the driver's license make you a better driver?
So,
We're gonna have to do a whole nother show on this, John.
yeah, we can, and I would love to be a part of that. Let's look at the opposite of
Uh,
that. Let's take away all driver's licenses, right? And let anybody drive the car. So you need a driver's license and ride with the state policeman in order to demonstrate a minimum level of competency in handling that car.
no, true. True. My 5-year-old would totally be out there on the road if there was no driver's license
Okay,
requirement.
right.
Actually, if I left the keys in the wrong place, my 5-year-old would be out on the road, and, she's actually a pretty good driver. Not that I would know that from, experience. Dr. Mulroy, besides management engagement, what other valued behaviors or metrics do you like? I like near miss, hazard recognition, good catch reporting. I call them NIMR NIMR-GICs.
Nimmer Nimmer like that.
And I mean, that's a good question for you, John, just because of what you recommend to your small businesses when you go in and start talking about safety management systems.
Right. So typically when you get into a small organization, it's almost exclusively lagging indicators, to the point where there's confusion that if an injury is compensable, therefore is recordable, right? And we know under 1904 that's not the case. So it's based a lot, oh my God, we got to get our EMR rate down. We got to get our EMR rate down, and it's very singularly focused attention on the issues that they're dealing with. But organizations, if I walk into a facility, if I drive up and I'm parked outside a facility and I see ISO 9001 outside, this is an ISO 9001 quality organization. I'm looking forward to going and meeting this group of people. because it's an emergent quality of the organization, right? They build excellent product. If they have the systems in place to ensure that their rework error rates, manufacturing defects are all under control, Six Sigma, whatever they may be using at that time, they're going to do safety well. And if they're not doing safety well today, they're going to be doing safety well in probably about 3 weeks because they understand it. They just haven't understood that Deming's approach to continual improvement for quality is the same roadmap we use for safety and health performance. So I go in. I like to see the leading indicator aspect of it on safety and health. What are the audits that are being done? What are the audits and inspection side of it? How are we getting workers to participate in safety? Are there vehicles for them to provide feedback in the communication aspect of the management system?
Yeah, and Nate says even in big organizations, it's still almost exclusively lagging
Sure.
indicators, and I
Yep.
totally agree with that.
Yep.
Totally agree,
100%.
Nate. Just for those of you who are seeing Nate kind of chime in here, Nate has isitrecordable.com, and he does a great job of posting
Hmm.
on LinkedIn about is it recordable or not. And Nate, tell me if I'm wrong. I think you can go to his site freely and get his information that he has, his different information on recordable, is it recordable, not recordable. He puts some great stuff out there. So if you're looking for something like that when you're doing your OSHA logs, Nate Brayman is somebody I'd recommend. Let's go to Robert. Let's see if I can get him up here. Robert asking for a friend. Do any worthwhile safety internships exist for someone who's struggling to get into safety due to lack of experience? Man, with the advent of a lot of online programs that do not have internships, um, or struggle to get internships into their programs just because of the logistics of it. Um, Robert, I think there has to be a conscious effort for the person who wants to get into safety to take something low paying in order to get the experience. I hate to say that, and or try to do some of this gig work that Nate is talking about. Um, and or get onto a project specific job. And there are people, if you listen to Pedro Maciel's show, The X Factor of Safety, he does that type of work. He might be somebody good to ask about how to get into, um, project specific. The only caution I would say there is the money is really good as a 1099 employee, but it's very deceptive in order to get into safety in that way, and then expect that you're going to make just as much money doing, um, a 9 to 5 job. So, do you have any comments on that, John? I see you looking at Rhonda.
I do. Rhonda's walking
So,
walking past
John's
there.
wife, Rhonda, is also a good friend of mine. I hope she doesn't mind me saying that. And I'm glad you're listening, Rhonda.
She's not listening because I got my headphones on,
Oh,
but
okay. Hi,
she's in the
Rhonda.
back. Hi, Rhonda. Hello, she said.
So internships,
So
John,
yeah,
like
so
what happens with all these safety programs that don't, because we both teach in some online programs. How do people get into safety with no experience?
so
What's your suggestion?
right. So I mean, there are a pool of companies that are looking for entry level positions, right? And oftentimes the university you choose is a manner in which those doors go open for you. Um, So companies, PPG, Alcoa, big construction companies like Clark, for example, they're recruiting from the IUPs and Millerville, Slippery Rock universities, and so having that affiliation with the university could be one way to open that door. I think your advice on looking for project specific opportunities is another. In how we are out there, how we put ourselves out there as professionals is really important. If you get involved in a project, let's say a large 3-year construction project, it's a gas cracker plant, for example, and your job there is doing fall protection inspections and doing that technical work. You're also introduced to 12, 15, 30 different craft companies at that point and other operating companies, and so you have some exposure there. But I think the key is exposure. Specifically, are you being visible? The reason I went from Westinghouse to Edison Mission Energy was I happened to do a presentation at the Pennsylvania Governor's Occupational Safety and Health Conference on this was in 2003 before Z10 had come out, and we had used ISO 9001 as a quality management system for safety, and we applied Deming's 8 principles. So I was presenting on how we took 9001 and made it a safety document back then. And Z10 hadn't even had hit the streets yet. But in the audience was the plant manager for Edison Mission Energy, and I had no idea, but I was on my first job interview at that time. And so he came up afterwards, introduced himself, and 6 months later, I'm working for him. I'm on his staff. So I think if you take advantage and put yourself out there, get involved in your local ASSP chapter and AIHA and do those work, CPWR, local emergency planning committee, whatever it may be, those how you network can open those doors for you as well.
So I'm going to add to that. I'll read Nate's comment and then I'm going to add a little bit. In 2010, as a student, I took an internship at the USDA that paid $15 an hour. Most internships my peers got were paid. The university helped set up those because an internship was a requirement for graduation, which is an ABET requirement. So I'm going to assume that possibly you went to an ABET school, Nathan, because they do have to have an internship in there, at least now. The standards are being revised. But the other thing I'm going to add to internships is the schools usually do have placement services. I know Capital Tech, where I work, has one. They usually have a pretty good placement rate. CSU has one. The other thing I would say is you'd be surprised at the people in leadership positions from all different types of schools. And that if you spend some time on LinkedIn, maybe not as much as I do, that you should be able to find people who have a degree from your school, who are partial to graduates from your school. And so, those are the people to connect with. I might not go right up and say, "Hey, do you have an internship?" But I might grow some connection with them, ask them some questions, and then maybe work your way up to how do I get an entry level position? Because I can tell you more often than not, I've had the answer be to several questions. I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy,
Mm-hmm.
and you know people talk a lot about networking, and it's not just about going to physical locations or conferences or whatnot. It's actually getting up the guts to reach out to people who you think are untouchable, or are safety gods or goddesses, and asking them a question and seeing if they respond. And you might be surprised who responds and who is gracious to share their time and their energy with you. So, that's impartial response to your, question, Robert. I hope that gives you a little bit of insight. So, anyways, we're coming up on the hour mark, and I wanted to see if anybody else. Oh, are you leaving? Are you leaving, John?
We hit that hour mark, and
Well, I don't wanna keep you. I kind of roped you into this. So,
oh no, it's
um
all good.
I got a couple more things that I want to answer. I did talk about my opinions are my own. I did say that I do say congratulations to more than just people from one agency. So start creeping me in other ways, and do better if you're gonna smack me down. And I have out there some requests for sponsorship, and people said, "Oh, you're trying to make money off this safety struggle thing." Guess what, guys? The safety struggle is not a moneymaker. It's a money suck. And the only reason that I'm doing this right now is because I really love doing it and I love connecting with you all. So when I ask for sponsorships, it's usually to help me with my equipment, or to appease my wife so that she lets me buy something new to work with here in my office studio. So I am not making a crap ton of money off the safety struggle. Um, just to remind you, John, you got to move over a little bit because you're
Sure.
in my
Want
Doc
me here?
Martin thing.
Yep.
Um, I'm gonna do the, favorite things, and I really do want you to write in and say, "These safety glasses are the best that I've ever had," or that, "This safety harness is amazing because of X," so that I can kinda highlight some of those products, and, maybe we can educate some of our fellow safety professionals on what's out there, to buy, purchase, use, protect people, etcetera. Um so that's pretty much all I have for today, and I really wanna thank you all for being here. I really wanna thank Dr. John Mulroy, who you can also look up on LinkedIn. I like to say Dr. John Mulroy because I'm so incredibly proud of this gentleman for banging through his dissertation in, lightning speed, and I am proud to call him a colleague.
Um,
So, um, thank you so much, John.
Thank you, my friend. I appreciate the opportunity and yeah, opportunity to come in and share our ideas. So it's
And
great.
man, I owed you a phone call anyway, so I'm gonna have to talk to you after we get off of this. So,
Yeah, we can do that. We got to talk about our book anyway. So
thank you everybody for coming to this edition of the Safety Struggle, this live stream, the third live stream that we've had, and it is Sunday, November 29th. And thank you, Dr. John Mulroy, and everybody else. Stay safe out there and look for us this week with some more live streams. Not us, me. Catch you later.
see y'all.